Start. All right. Okay, good afternoon. And the meeting of the Faculty Senate will come to order. By the way, we're using the new app-based attendance tracker. Has everyone here logged in? So you can either do it from your smartphone, or if you want, Logan out front can give you credit. If you haven't logged in, after the meeting, you can come see us, and we'll make sure you get credit for being here. Okay? So let's go ahead and do our roll call from the regionals. Potomac State, how many are present?
Potomac State has 3 present.
It looks like you have 3. We actually could not hear you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Still not hearing you. Yeah, I can see 3. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, Tech. Okay, we see 2. Is that everyone? 2? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, there's a change in the agenda today. So item 6 was James Goins, and he was unfortunately not able to make it today. And so we will schedule him for a later date. Okay, so next is for approval, the minutes of the January 6th Faculty Senate meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the January meeting that were distributed? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as written. And then next is a report from President Gordon Gee.
So, I'm back, which is kind of like a bad dream. But anyway, I'm back. I want to thank all of you for your cards and notes. I had one of these kind of occurrences that happen when you get older. I was in the Pittsburgh airport. Should have never been in the airport, but I was there, and I had a fainting spell. I just fainted and broke my nose and all over the place. And this kid from Ohio State whom I'd given a diploma came up to me and was giving me all of the hand signals. How many fingers am I holding up? When is your birthday? Asked me who was the president. I said I refused to tell him. So it was it was all right. And then the EMT guys came by and they said, well, we need to take you to the hospital and check you out. And I said, which hospital? And they said UPMC. And I said, hell will freeze over before I go to UPMC. So anyway, I'm doing great, and I appreciate all the support. So we're in the middle of a legislative session. I'll talk a little bit about that. But we have so many other things going on. We've got a facilities master plan that we're in the middle of developing. As you know, our campus has undergone a lot of renovation. We need to do a lot more. We're taking a look at it, how much we can do at one time, making a look at, of course, building a new business facility, upgrading our residence halls, building new facilities for research. So we have a number of things going on. But our facilities master planning is very important to us, and there are going to be a number of conversations with faculty members and others about how we can best use the resources that we have. We are very focused on opioid research. The governor has indicated, as you know, that our university is going to lead much of the effort in this regard. It's a scourge that is inflicting this country. We have young people and not so young people dying every day and all across this country, and we obviously have an intense interest in it in West Virginia. For 2 reasons. One is the fact that we are particularly inflicted with it, but the second reason is the fact that I think we also have an opportunity to create a sense of solution. My belief about West Virginia is the fact that we are a perfectly situated living learning laboratory. We're just big enough to have every problem and small enough to be able to create solutions, and so we're really focusing on that. We have the College of Law is offering the nation's only Master's of Law degree in forensic for white-collar crime. Seems appropriate right now. And I just want to point out that we have created a number of very unique programs through our forensic science programs, through our programs in law and engineering that I think have been very, very well received, and certainly have brought the university a great deal of attention. As you know, we hired William Brustein to be our vice president for global initiatives, making great progress in that regard. We think as an international university, we need to do some things that are much different and much and unique. And I'm pleased to announce that there are 2 major awards given to institutions that work internationally. One of them is the High School Award given by the Institute of International Education, and we have just won that award. And the award is for innovation in international partnerships with our strategic partner in the Middle East, the Royal University for Women in Bahrain, and that is a wonderful opportunity for us. So the final thing, as I said, that I would talk about a little bit is the legislative session. We're about halfway through. You know, the state is in a much better shape financially. It is not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but we are not looking at budgetary reductions. We're actually hopefully be able to get some support on some of our critical budgetary initiatives, which means that our own budget is much more stable, which means that we can do some things that we have wanted to do, and the provost will be talking about salaries and other things. But the most important thing is the fact that we do believe that we have a great and strong support down there. The provost will talk about the campus carry bill. She has done a great job and valiantly fighting that issue. We think that we're making, we do 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step to the side. It's an issue whose time is very relevant all around this country. As you know, a number of states have passed it. Most of the institutions in the Big 12 are dealing with this in some form or other. In fact, we're one of the few outliers. We hope to remain an outlier, but it's an issue that does confront us, and in the time we want to make certain that we are dealing with it appropriately. Saying that, what kinds of questions can I answer for everyone? Anyone have any questions? Seeing or hearing none, Matt, the floor is yours, okay?
Okay, so next is report from Provost McConnell.
Good afternoon, everyone. It was great to see you all. I do want to start off by talking about campus carry. I just want to give you a brief update so that you know exactly what's going on. It was passed out of the House Committee on Education on Friday. It passed out by a voice vote, which actually seemed very close, but the chair called it for those in support. The internal compromise seemed to be that it would go to judiciary before it would go to the floor, which we thought was good. That gives us another opportunity with the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. We have been carrying the water on this for the other institutions in the state. The Higher Education Policy Commission did not want to take a position on this, and so it has been WVU that has organized all of the 4-year campus presidents, and they have sent a joint letter in opposition, and we are now starting to get some of the community college presidents to sign on as well. West Virginia University was very well represented at Friday's committee meeting. Chief Roberts, our chief of university police, did an absolutely incredible job in talking about the law enforcement perspective and safety on campus. Rob did an absolutely wonderful job of giving the national perspective on what's going on. I also spoke. I'm not going to give myself a rating. That would be uncomfortable. But it was interesting to me that we were the people who were asked to speak, and we were also the largest number from any institution, and the only other institutions there were Marshall and Bluefield and Pierpont Community College. So just to give you a view. So Rob has put some phenomenal materials together. How many of you got to see Rob's video? Good. One of the things that I want to tell you is we've been trying to communicate about this. We sent out the video, Rob, we send out Under the Dome. We'll be sending out some more on e-news. But I've been getting a lot of emails from faculty members saying they knew nothing about this. And we've been talking about it in here for 2 years. So if you could make sure as your college representatives that you go back to your faculty and make sure that they understand that West Virginia University is working very, very hard to hold this off. And when we get to question and answer, there may be some questions, and I'll be happy to entertain them at that time. I'm going to leave the conversation about PEIA and Go 365 to Matt, because he really loves that issue. And, so I don't have to do anything with that. You may also realize that there was a free speech bill that was floating around that was anything but free speech. We also have met about that and opposed that, and it seems to have gone quiet, and we hope that means it's dead. I'll keep you posted on that. The other that you may have heard of was that there was a bill circulating that would have given Board of Governors the right and the authority to do away with tenure. We have also been in opposition of that, and thankfully it hasn't gone anywhere. So we just wanted to let you know that we were on top of that one as well. Now for some good news. I hope that you all picked up these packets as you came in at the door. There are a few things I want to point out. The first one is that I want to give a shout out to our other campuses, to WVU Tech and to Potomac State, because this year's IDEA Fellows, our Innovation and Entrepreneurship Fellows, all come from the other campuses, which is really interesting. We were able to pull them in and get them as excited about these issues as we are on this campus. So this year it is Andrea Kent, Political Science from WVU Tech, Amy Weaver, Business Management, Technology and Computer Information Systems, Potomac State, and Carrie Whitaker, Psychology, Potomac State College, and Adrian Williams, Biology, WVU Tech. So we're very excited about that next class of our fellows. Are any of our current fellows here in the Senate? No, okay. Well, hopefully we'll get them to come and debrief you on what they've accomplished over the last 2 years. The second thing I want to turn to is something that we like to update all of you at least annually, if not more. And I'm actually going to call Steve Urias from the athletic department. He's the vice, am I going to get this right? The vice, no, you can't be the vice president. Yeah. So Shane Lyons is our athletic director, and you're our vice athletic director, yes. So I want to bring Steve up because Steve has done, and you'll see this, you have a graphic. This is on the academic achievement of our athletes. You can see it on the front page of the graphic and on the back by team sport. I want Steve to come up and tell you about all the steps that we've taken this year to keep this moving in a forward direction.
I always tell everybody that titles usually go by weight, so as you get more and more words in your title, it means I've gained more weight, Dr. Gee. So it's hard to have any humor when he's around because he wins all those competitions. But I appreciate your having me today to tell you a little bit about what goes on the academic side of the athletics department. And as you know, oftentimes you'll hear all the negative things that happen nationally, but what we wanted to do was spend a little bit of time today talking about the positive things. And if you take a look at the one-page sheet that we put out, the graphic, you'll see that our student athletes are excelling in the classroom. Overall, of our 17 sports, 13 of them had GPAs at or above the 3.0 level. We're looking at a couple of teams. Obviously, our rifle team we're very proud of. Excellent students, 3.66. But if you take a look at cross-country, 3.65. To be quite honest with you, the focus of us right now and nationally, you're going to look at the next question is, what does basketball and football look like? This is my fourth institution in the Big 12 Conference on the academic side, and when you take a look at football being at a 2.89, I would put that in the top 10 programs in the country overall. When you take a look at men's basketball at a 2.69, you'll find that a lot of those students come in with different backgrounds than our traditional students, so we're doing quite a bit to remediate those, to work with them, putting a lot of resources in it. We just recently completed an audit that was done by a group called the Compliance Group, a comprehensive audit that looked at everything from academic performance to course clustering to major clustering and all those things. And one of the nice things is, through the help of May Pfeiffer in the registrar's office, we're now putting in place what we call a scorecard that we'll punch a button at the end of each term. It'll generate a report and it'll say, what is the course clustering of student athletes? Where are we? Where are their GPAs? And those are all public information. And I think it's important because you've seen at other institutions across the country that the PR associated with something on the athletic side and the academic side hurts everybody. Our provost also told me she's on the infractions committee and she threatened me. So it was very, very quick that I understood very quickly where we stood. So any questions from that side or anything on the academic or anything else you'd like me to cover? You're an easy group. Now, our athletic director did tell me that your attendance app is going to be working for tonight's basketball game. So you're all supposed to be there, otherwise we're going to report it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. And I really want to commend our athletic director and our vice athletic director because they have just been wonderful for me to work with on the academic side of these issues. And it takes a village to make sure that we're staying on top of it. And so, and MA, I think you're here somewhere, aren't you? There she is, all the way in the back. Thank you for everything. So the other thing I want to bring your attention to is that we ran an experiment this year with Intersession, and I want to thank Paul Kreider for that, as well as Keith Bailey, our Dean for Online, and then John Campbell, who worked very hard to make this happen, as did Amay and other people up behind the scenes. And I want to thank the faculty in particular who stepped up and were willing to offer these critical courses for our students. We handed this out to you because it was an experiment. It's always good when you are experimenting or running a pilot that you actually take a look at outcomes. And so you can see here we had an enrollment of 282, and we actually only anticipated about 250. So we were very pleased with that. It was a 3-week course, fully online between once the break ended for winter break and before the semester began. It was very intensive. The thing that was great about it is that students who were away were able to pick up a credit or 2 or 3 that they couldn't have otherwise. And the feedback that we got from this has been overwhelmingly positive. Students who really felt squeezed and not being able to get a class they needed or not being able to afford to stay here this summer for one class, this really made a huge difference for them. So if you take a look at this, see if you have any questions about it, and we can answer that when we get to the question and answer period. We do have some other very good news other than the faculty idea fellows, and I don't want to take too much time, but good news is always a good thing, right, in times like this where we're struggling with some issues. And I think the Innovation and Idea Hub is a wonderful idea. The winter term was a wonderful success. I also, let's see, we talked about student athletic achievement. What's the rest? You think, oh, I know what it was. The last thing I wanted to say was for the second straight year, West Virginia University's online graduate program in software engineering has been ranked in the top 15 nationwide by U.S. News and World Report. And the Statler College program joined several other WVU programs, including the online hybrid MBA that were included in those rankings. And the online hybrid MBA is really interesting. I want to bring this to your attention. It's only been in existence for 7 years, but in 6 of those 7, it's been in the top 50. So that's really, really a testament, I think, to the excellence of what we're doing in our online programming. And I want to thank you for that. And then our nursing program, which has been offering online graduate programs to meet the needs of working nurses who want to move into the next degree, jumped 10 spots this year from 61 to 51. So really doing some good work in the online space. Now I'm happy to take any questions that any of you might have. I could go on and on about other things, but I'm sure you do have some questions. No, everyone wants to get out of here early today. I love it. Are there any questions from WVU Tech?
No questions, Provost McConnell.
I think that meant no questions. Thumbs up, no questions. How about Potomac State?
No questions either, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, does that, no questions, okay. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Okay, so next up is my chair report. I have a few things to cover. First is in the area of upcoming elections for Senate. There was a call for nomination for open Senate seats for regular senators that was sent on January 19th, and it has since closed. Fortunately, we've been able to get enough nominees. So the elections for regular seats will be conducted electronically between March 1st and 9th. So keep an eye out for the email coming to you from Qualtrics. Next is the election for, would be my position, the Faculty Senate Chair-elect. And this is, I'll remind you, this is a Board of Governors year. And so the successful winner of the Chair-elect voting would be Chair-elect from 2018 to 19, and starting July 1st, 2019, would serve a one-year term as Faculty Senate Chair and a two-year term on the Board of Governors. Okay, so the timeline there is, well, we're taking nominations now if you want to send them by email. In our next meeting in March, we'll take nominations from the floor, and then we'll close the nominations. And then in April, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk here before the Senate. They can send a written statement out beforehand. Voting will be immediately following the April meeting, and then the results will be announced in May. Okay. And then the other position is our other Board of Governors representative. And the timeline there, it's about 1 month later than the timeline for chair-elect. So we'll take nominations up to the April meeting. You can make nominations from the floor at the April meeting. Actually, the Constitution is a little bit different in how the second Board of Governors position closes. Nominations will actually be open through May 7th. So even after nominations are taken here on the floor, you can continue to nominate through May 7th. And then the candidates would speak in the May meeting, okay, and voting after that. And then the other area is in the area of committees. So tomorrow, we're going to send out a survey asking all faculty what committees would you like to serve on. So when you see that, certainly as a senator, we would hope that you would be active in committees. And so please respond to that. And this creates the pool of people for staffing of committees. And as you know, it's within the committees that the real work of the Senate gets accomplished. Okay, so next I wanted to give you an update on the Board of Governor rules. So this week, in its meeting on Friday, the Board of Governors will be reviewing the proposed faculty-related rules, and assuming that the Board of Governors agrees to move forward, there'll be a 30-day public comment period. And that's when we would hope that you as senators and other faculty would make your comments. Also on the agenda today, C.B. Wilson will be discussing these faculty-related rules. Okay, so I'll let him handle the details and your questions in that area. And then next up after that, we have some rules on reduction in force and program creation and review that we'll be reviewing next. Those are currently with exec, and they'll be going to Board of Governors, I think in March, in a special meeting that we're planning. Okay. Next thing I wanted to give you an update on was the dependent tuition benefit. This is something we talked about in the last meeting. On January 11th, right after our last meeting, a group of faculty and staff from the Faculty and Staff Welfare Committee met with administrators to talk about some of the details of the tuition benefit plan. Actually, right now, the details are still being formulated, and this is why you haven't seen any further announcements. I do expect an announcement to be forthcoming fairly soon, probably in the next couple weeks. I'll give you a preview of some of the basic ideas behind the benefit. First of all, it's not really envisioned to be a full benefit. It's not going to be full tuition, but rather it would be some fixed amount, like a scholarship. The amount is kind of one area that we're trying to determine what that fixed amount would be if you're in state. Now, if you're out of state, the plan is to waive the out-of-state differential. So faculty dependents that are out of state would then just pay the in-state tuition, okay? There would be some minimum academic requirements, but there would not actually be any minimum requirements in terms of how long you've worked here. So people that immediately start employment would be eligible for the benefit, and there would be no repayment period either. Okay, so that's the basic idea of the plan, and keep an eye out for an announcement that would highlight the full details, okay? And then the next thing I want to talk about, and I've got more complaints about this than anything else, and that is this little thing called Go365. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. Has anyone downloaded it? Okay, so as you know, last month, PEIA announced this new smartphone-based wellness app called Go365. And since then, there's been a significant pushback throughout the state. And on January 30th, Governor Justice announced that Go365 would be voluntary, okay? And since then, we have some of the faculty and staff leadership has met with Cheryl Jackson, who's the PEIA wellness manager, to get an update to see what this really means. So the original plan was to require you to accumulate 3,000 points in Go365 by May 2019, or else you would have to pay an additional $25 a month premium and also $500 deductible increase. Okay, so with the governor's announcement, the $25 additional premium has gone away. The $500 deductible penalty is still there if you don't do anything. But now you have two options. On the one hand, you can use Go365, get 3,000 points if you want a smartphone-based approach, or if you prefer, you can go back to using a form, paper form, very much like the old Healthy Tomorrows form, and you have to just certify that you're within certain range for your biometrics, or have a doctor say there's a reason you can't do that, and then mail that form back. But if you do nothing, if you do neither of those, then you would have a $500 increase to your deductible, okay? So that's where we stand at Go365. But talking about Go365 kind of opened up a larger can of worms, which is PEIA. And in addition to Go365, PEIA had proposed a change to the premium structure. Okay, so under the current structure, I'll remind you, under the current structure, the amount that you pay, if you're in Plan A or B, PEIA, or D if you're in that, the amount you pay is tied to your income. And there's actually a pretty wide dynamic range. If the highest income tier pays 4 times the lowest income tier, and there's 10 tiers. So one of the changes that they proposed was to collapse the tiers. Instead of having 10 tiers, there would be 5, and the dynamic range was reduced. So the top tier was still paying more, but it was more like 3 times as much as the lowest tier instead of 4 times. But the reason they could do this was they also proposed looking at the total household income, combined income. So if you have a spouse, it would be your income and your spouse's income. And this is where there is a lot of pushback, as you probably heard in the news, especially from the K through 12 teachers. They push back primarily on this combined income feature. So on February 6th, Governor Justice announced that he's recommending that the PIA freeze the rate structure. So the governor's proposal is to make next year's rates identical to this year. Now, this has to be approved by the PEIF Finance Board, of course. They're all appointees of the governor, but there is also a cost attached to this too, so it's not clear where that cost is going to come from. So, but the way it stands now, it looks like the plan for next year is going to be the same as for this year in terms of the premium structure and the deductibles, okay? This means that a few proposed changes that probably would have been beneficial to a lot of WVU faculty are now off the table. So for instance, there was a new employee and spouse plan that was proposed. Currently, if you have no dependents, an employee and spouse, you have to be on the full family plan, and they price it as if you have 3 dependent children, even if you only have cats. And so that's now off the table. It may come back. We'll see. And that would have been a 30% reduction for those of you that have a spouse but no dependent. And then also, with the change in the structure, a lot of faculty who were set to have a reduction in their premiums will end up having the same premium, and will continue to subsidize the rest of the state for at least another year. Okay. Now, along these lines, we had a meeting last week with Ted Cheatham, the director of PIA, and in the meeting, we floated the idea of, well, maybe we could have a WVU-only plan, where it would be a WVU pool, so only WVU faculty and staff pay into the full plan and get the benefits from the plan, and we can structure it the way we liked. And he was open to the idea, although with one modification. He said that if we do this, all the other state schools are going to want to do this, so he would want it to be a higher ed plan. So Marshall and Potomac State and the other state schools would all be in the same pool. But he was open to the idea. He asked us to come back with a plan. He offered to give us an actuary that we could use instead of giving us the data directly, but we can use the actuary to help us craft the plan. And he wanted us to get back to him around July for the 2020 plan, which would start the following July. So by July 2018, if we can get a good plan in place, then it could be effective in July 2019, possibly. But we'll see how it goes. But we are putting together a small group of faculty, staff, and administrators to try to put forward this plan, and we'll keep you updated on that. And I will announce there is a PEIA public hearing here tomorrow in the Erickson Center, February 13th, 6 to 8 p.m. Originally, it was supposed to be limited to this combined income discussion, but I guess in light of the freeze in the premium structure, the discussion could be perhaps a little bit broader than that. So I'll probably be there. Some of the others of the others here might want to attend. Okay, so that's PEIA. Sorry, that was kind of long, but we had 4 meetings about this. It's been occupying a lot of my time. Finally, I have a few announcements to make. One is about the WVU Eco Car. I don't know if you guys know about the Eco Car, but it's a hybrid Chevy Camaro that's modified by Statler College engineering students. It gets 45 miles to the gallon and still can go 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It's on display this weekend in Pittsburgh at the Pittsburgh Auto Show, the David Lawrence Convention Center. So some of the students from my department will be there. Another announcement, the Office of Admissions is seeking faculty volunteers for Decide WVU days. These are March 24th and April 14th. This is a day when we bring in undecided students, and your job, if you volunteer, is to try to convince them to come here. So if you're interested, please send an email. You can send it to me and I'll relay it, or you can send it directly to Ricky Huffman, Ricky spelled RICKIE, .huffman@mail.wvu.edu. And then final announcement, there's an open textbook workshop March 8th, 10 a.m. downtown. And so there you'll learn about open textbooks that might be available in your area. This kind of follows up on what Blake Humphrey, student body president, came to talk to us about last month, where he's trying to encourage us to use more open textbooks to improve affordability. So if you're interested, contact Martha Yancey, University Librarian, martha.yancey@mail.wvu. Okay? And that's the end of my report. Are there any questions here? Yeah, Evan Witters.
Hi, Matt. Evan Witters, Eberly College. Thanks for the update on PIA especially. My perception is about PIA that we're always sort of reacting to what they do without a lot of input. Is that just because I'm not paying enough attention, or is that the way it works? I mean, they say they're going to institute a change, and then we react to the change, but is there any way that we can actually be involved in figuring out what these changes are going to be a little bit ahead of time? I have children, and it's hard to know, when you don't know year to year what your premiums are going to be. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I'm qualified to give a full answer to that. I've only been in this position so long, and there was a public hearing in November, and that's where some of the proposals came out. But we now have an opportunity to be proactive. So that's sort of the whole point of this opportunity we have right now to be able to help formulate the plans for next year that are WVU or higher ed based. Did you have a comment? Yeah, please.
So Evan, we've actually tried to be very proactive. We have someone in HR, Tony Christian, who works very closely along with Rob Alsop and our finance people with PEIA. This with Go 365, we were absolutely caught unaware. That was not something that they had communicated that with us. But the whole idea about changing the tier structure, dual income, those kinds of things that we thought would benefit our employees actually originated with us. Unfortunately, you can see that what has happened is that what we've always said about PEIA is that it touches so many different people in so many different circumstances, and we're the healthiest pool of people within it that it's hard to get the changes through that we know are best for our people because they might not be best, for example, for the public teachers. So that's what we're struggling with. But I think we've made progress, and I think those people who've worked on PEIA issues for a long time would say we've made progress in terms of our relationship with PEIA and actually getting them to engage with us. Obviously, we failed on Go 365.
Thanks. And now I realize why Joyce came up here rather than there. She left her smartphone up here. Yeah, okay. Are there any other questions? And are there questions from Potomac State or Tech? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah,
mention,
Emily.
being in those meetings, one of the things that we also discovered is that PEI has not signed the MOU with Go 365. So if you do have questions or want to speak out against it or for it, going to tomorrow's meeting would be beneficial as far as Go 365 is concerned also.
Right, so there is a cost for Go 365. PEIA is paying for it. The plan is Go 365 has 4 or 5 people working for them for Humana that's here in West Virginia dedicated to Go 365, so. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so next, this was the change to the agenda. Our next item was supposed to be a report from James Goins, the Title IX coordinator. He could not make it at the last minute, so we're going to try to reschedule him either next month or the following month. Okay. So we'll move on to the curriculum committee report, and here to give it is Kim Floyd.
Okay. So in addition to the new courses report, the course changes, deletions, and adoptions report, and the capstone report, we have 2 new majors. One is in cybersecurity, and the other is in health informatics and information management. And we have 2 program changes, to the international studies major and to the BS in physical education and kinesiology. So in the interest of time, I propose that we group all of these items, annexes 1, 2, and 3, the 2 new majors and the 2 program changes into a single consent agenda. So with that in mind, I turn it over to you, Mr. Chair, for a discussion and a vote.
Okay, thanks, Kim. So are there any objections or points of discussion for annexes 1, 2, or 3, either new major or either program change? And Tech or Potomac State, do you have any comments about any of these? Okay. Okay, so we can move on to a vote. So all those in favor of approving annexes 1, 2, and 3, the 2 new majors and the 2 program changes, say aye. Aye. Okay,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 3 ayes.
Okay. And WVU Tech, how do you vote?
Tech has 2 ayes.
WVU Tech has 2 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the ayes have it. Annexes 1, 2, and 3, the 2 new majors and the 2 program changes are approved. So next is GEF report.
We have 150 courses in our expedited workflow for GEC, right, to GEF transition. So we're working our way through those, and we'll have a list of courses for everyone at the next Faculty Senate meeting.
So next meeting, we'll
Yes.
have a list of 150 courses.
Not
to
quite
approve.
150, but
All right, got it.
we're getting there.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, next is Faculty Representative State Government, Roy. I believe. CB, oh, I'm sorry, CB. Yeah, I was gonna skip CB. Next up is CB Wilson, Associate Provost for Academic Personnel, to talk about the new rules on faculty. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And to some extent, although I will be happy to entertain your questions, this is more in the nature of a report than necessarily a discussion. Well, as we've represented on several other occasions, what our team has been working on this semester has no surprises. We have made, I think we've made that point clear over a period of time. But what I want to do is simply go back and reference the 6 different faculty rules that will be going to the Board of Governors this Friday. And as Matt noted, assuming that those move through the board, that next Monday will, as I understand it, will be the first day of a 30-day formal comment period. The details of that will be announced publicly, and so I believe that the way this works is that you can go to the Board of Governors website, review stuff, make comments, et cetera, et cetera. So these 6 particular faculty rules include what will become Board of Governors Faculty Rule 4.1, and this is simply the front end of the current Policy 2, which talks about academic freedom. I think that there might have been one word changed in that whole text, so this is really no particular surprise. Faculty Rule 4.2 will be the guts of what is currently Policy 2, which is promotion and tenure, faculty evaluation, dismissal for cause, things like that, which basically, again, the 2 main differences in that current text will be, first of all, for TAPS, the increase from 10% to 15% to allow for additional appointments of TAPS, which we've discussed in here before, and also the notion that upon promotion to associate professor, a TAP can have a term of up to 6 years, and upon promotion to full professor, a TAP would have the possibility of a term of up to 9 years, and this body approved that a couple of years ago. We are also now going to refer to teaching faculty rather than term faculty, and that's just a subtle little difference. Faculty Rule 4.3 is the sabbatic leave rule. The only difference in what you will see in that rule is that we've taken the procedures out, and there would be a subsequent notice from the provost's office that will detail the procedures. Those don't actually need to be in the rule per se. Faculty Rule 4.4, among other things, this retains the language in present policy about what we affectionately refer to as the super professor raise, which is the salary enhancement for continued academic achievement that is available to full professors or the equivalent, and I say or the equivalent because that includes university librarians. This also pulls out language from a previous Board of Governors salary rule, and it maintains the notion that there will be a 10% increase in salary upon promotion. Faculty Rule 4.5 memorializes what we have been calling the PWAP and the AWAP, that is the parental work assignment procedure and the alternate work assignment procedure, and also picks up the language from Policy 51, which identifies a basis for extending the critical year. Faculty Rule 4.6 is the adjunct faculty rule. There's really no change in this. It simply identifies part-time faculty with the term adjunct. I personally don't like that term, but that's a term that is in code, and so I'm going to live with that. Those 6 rules will be going to the board this Friday. What we have also circulated to the Senate Executive Committee for an abbreviated informal review period is what will be called Faculty Rule 4.7, which is the reduction in force rule. This pulls out sections 13 and 14 of the current policy 2, which addresses both financial exigency or program reduction. And this will be now reviewed by Senate Exec. We hope that that will be going to a special board meeting in March so that ultimately it will catch up through, again, a 30-day formal comment period and become part of a package that will go to the board for its April 19th meeting, I believe. And in any case, the board meeting in April, which then would pull together all 7 of these faculty rules. There are also 3 current policies that will be taken off the books, but these are all policies that have now language that will be in one of the 7 policies. For instance, the faculty emeritus rule will be one of those that will become part of the new 4.2 rule. Those are my summary comments. I'll be happy to have any questions that you may have. Okay. Thank you.
By the way, were there any questions from Potomac State or Tech for CB? Okay. All right. Now we can move on to Roy Nutter, faculty representative to state government.
Roy Nutter, Statler College, and your ACF rep. The hot items are essentially the legislative session, as you might guess. We met as ACF on Higher Education Day with Senate Finance Chair, the House Education Chair, Senate Education Chair, the House Speaker, the Senate President, and the House Finance Chair. I guess what I would say is that typical meetings for the most part, although some real eye-openings from one of the finance chairs, which I'd be happy to discuss later in private. He is not higher education friend is the way I would interpret that. The bills that are probably the hottest among ACF were the so-called free speech bill, Senate Bill 111, which Provost McConnell has said is buried. We believe it probably is. And the campus carry bill, its number I can't remember, 4298 maybe, something like that, which you've heard about from her. ACF met afterwards, and of course that's always an interesting discussion of the same morning dealings with the legislature, so there's really, I don't see much there that we need to talk about. Almost hate to ask for his questions when the legislature's in session. Are there questions? Good.
Okay. Thanks. Potomac State and Tech, did either of you have questions? Okay. All right, so next is Stan Heilman to give a Board of Governors report.
All right, we had a special meeting on January 24th, and there we actually went over the comments that had been received on some different sets of rules that were up for comment, rules about sexual harassment, the emeritus status of presidents and staff, as well as child protection rules on campus. We also discussed the master plan for facilities. We discussed some progress on the business or proposed business and economics building that is going to be where Stansbury Hall is now. We do have a regular meeting that is scheduled for this Friday. As Matt mentioned and CB discussed, that will involve talking about these rules that are dealing with faculty. So I encourage folks here to get online, either through the Board of Governors website or the policies website within WVU's website, to comment on those if you feel so inclined. The last thing I'll mention, I think last time I mentioned that Dixie Martinelli was retired from the Board of Governors as a staff representative, and Lisa Martin will now be her replacement on the board. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Other questions for Stan? Okay. Potomac State and Tech, do you have questions for Stan? Okay. All right, so next is new business. Is there any new business? Okay. Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.